Hi, everyone. I'm Alona Minkowski, and you're watching the West Coast edition of HuffPost Live. Now, details are still coming out of Boston, where at least 2 explosions went off at the scene of the Boston Marathon at around 2:45 p.m. local time, just 2 hours after the first runners crossed the finish line. Sports reporter from the Boston Globe shot this video from the scene. Over 100 people have been injured and at least 2 people are dead. So we're going to bring you as much up-to-date information as we can. Sky, you were there at the marathon. Tell us what you saw in your eyes.
Yes, so I actually had the day off and had swung by my office, which is in Copley Square. We're on the corner of Clarendon and Stewart Street, right in Copley, next to the Hancock Tower, and had grabbed 2 of my colleagues and walked over to the finish line area. One of our colleagues, Lindsay Dare, was running the marathon. And we were all tracking her on our phones, so we knew she was about to finish. And we were kind of, worming our way as close as we could possibly get before you get to the VIP area where you need a pass, which is the grandstands. So we were actually under the awning outside of the Lenox Hotel and, looking to the left, waiting for her to finish, and just heard the loudest sound I've ever heard in my life. And for a split second, thought it was a gunshot and quickly realized it was way louder than a gunshot. And kind of looked up and looked left. And right as I looked left, the windows, I couldn't tell if it looked like it was around the 2nd or 3rd floor above Marathon Sports, right on Boylston Street. The windows actually exploded out onto the street. And everyone just started screaming. The police immediately started breaking down all the barricades right by the finish line. It was just, utter chaos and mass confusion. And about 15 to 20 seconds after you heard that first loud sound, there was another equally loud sound, and looked to the left down the other end of Boylston Street where the runners were approaching from, and there was a cloud of smoke. So my colleagues and I actually ducked behind, kind of right next to the Lenox Hotel and the Saks Fifth Avenue, which is part of the Copley Square Mall. We ducked behind an alley and ran and cut across Copley and actually went back to our office just amid the confusion. And there were, police were trying to block off streets, and it was quite a chaotic scene. Some people were just standing there kind of awestruck, and other people had, little kids that they were pulling by the arm. There were kids in strollers screaming and crying. So it was just a total chaotic scene.
And Scott, and some people were still running the marathon. From the video that you've seen out there, too, it looks like there was a lot of confusion. What were the first thoughts that went through your mind?
The first thoughts that went through my mind were for our colleague, because we knew she was about a half a mile just from tracking her from the finish, and what the runners would think. And, the people that were actually just crossing the finish line as the explosion happened, it seemed that some of them, weren't really paying attention to the situation and just kept running and checking their watches to see their finishing time. And other ones were like kind of slowing down to a slow jog and looking around. And it looked like police were running towards where the runners were coming from to tell them to stop and get away from the area. But my first thought was for our colleague, what she's going to think. And then my other thought was, all right, if an explosion happened right at the finish line and then another explosion just went off further down Boylston Street, they're probably trying to trap all the, the onlookers right in this small area. So we have to get out of here. So we just, like I said, headed down a back alley that was conveniently right behind us.
And Scott, what is the mood like around there now? I mean, you obviously got away from the scene as fast as you could, but your family members, I know people are having a hard time communicating. There were some initial reports in the Associated Press that perhaps cell phone service had been shut down in the city. Now they're just saying that it was possibly because of an overwhelming volume of phone calls.
My guess is that it's just, like you said, the overwhelming volume of phone calls. As soon as myself and my 2 coworkers got back to the office, we told everyone in our office and turned on the TV, and we're just kind of watching it all play out live on the television. But they had said that they heard an explosion and that our building where our offices had shook and they weren't sure what it was. And we came running in and told them what we saw. But just right outside our office is, we're actually right next to the Hancock Tower, and that's the designated meeting area for families. So, when the runners finish, that's where they come and, meet their families and friends and loved ones to congratulate them. And it just seemed total confusion. People were looking in the direction of the explosion because they had obviously heard it but couldn't see it. But we actually saw the windows come out of the building, so we knew to get out of the area.